Greetings, my wonderful students. Today we start our review of African civilizations. Now, Africa was greatly impacted by its geography. It is divided into 4 geographical zones. And the very uppermost is a desert known as the Sahara. Then, just south of the Sahara, are grasslands called savannas, also known as the Sahel. Closer to the equator are rainforests, and then at the very southern tip is the Kalahari Desert. These geographic features have led to the formation of diverse cultures because it had been difficult for these cultures to come into contact with each other. Now, the shoreline of Africa has few natural harbors. As you can see, the shoreline is very smooth, which is very different from the way it was in, say, ancient Greece or in Japan. The rivers have many rapids and waterfalls, making it hard to navigate. So if you compare that to, say, the Mississippi River or other major rivers in other parts of the world, it was more difficult to travel from one area to another in the African rivers. Now, early African religions were mainly forms of animism, the belief that nature spirits inhabit living and non-living things. We see this in many different areas of the world. In Asia, in early Asian cultures, in North America and South America, and different Native American cultures, and even in some early European cultures we see this. Now, as time passed, through a process called cultural diffusion, baby, both Christianity and Islam spread into Africa as well, and these different religions led to conflicts between kingdoms. Now, Ibn Battuta was born in Morocco, and he, like Marco Polo, was a great explorer. As you can see here in the map, he traveled to many different places. One of the areas he traveled to was Timbuktu. It is from Ibn Battuta that we get our first accounts of what life in Mali was like. On his travels, he kept journals that served as a primary source on many cultures, and his writings led to an increased interest and trade between cultures. Now, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai were kingdoms of West Africa. They became very powerful due to their control of the gold and salt trade. Salt here in the desert and gold here in the southern regions. That trade routes allowed them to have large amounts of money, and as a result, Mali's capital of Timbuktu became an important trade center. Now, Mansa Musa was the most famous king of Mali, and as a Muslim, he made a pilgrimage to Mecca, and this during the height of the Islamic Empire. And so he brought back many Muslim scholars to improve his capital city, and he turned Timbuktu into a great center of learning, as well as trade and culture, creating one of Africa's oldest universities. Mansa Musa's fame and wealth helped spread the religion of Islam. Now, the Bantu were another group in the southern part of West Africa, and they left their lands due to a climate change and possibly over farming. They were in search of food. As they migrated to many parts of Africa, they brought with them their knowledge of ironworking as well as their language. And as a result, today many African languages have the Bantu language as a basis. For a comparable idea, think of how the Roman language and the Roman alphabet spread throughout Western Europe during the time of the Roman Empire. It's through this cultural diffusion, baby, that causes these things to occur. Now, other kingdoms of Africa include Kush, which was south of Egypt along the Nile River. And then in the Ethiopian highlands was the kingdom of Aksum along the coast of the Red Sea. And both of these cultures depended upon trade with Arabia across the Red Sea. Benin was located along the Niger River, right along here. And it was famous for its great works of bronze art. Kilwa and Great Zimbabwe were located along the east coast of Africa and were part of important trade routes. They traded with India using the monsoon winds, which would allow them to sail to India quite easily. And that is the end of our review.